Welcome to this week's West Norfolk Sports Podcast. Our special guest ahead of his testimonial on Sunday is Mads Corneliusson. Now, I've known Mads for a couple of years. He had a column in the EDP. I'm just going to have a bet with him to start this podcast off that he can't get through the whole session without swearing. If Mads swears, he can buy me a beer on Sunday. If he doesn't, I'll buy him a couple. How you doing, Mads?
Good, thank you.
Good. Now, Mads is a Danish speedway rider who's 30 years of age, has spent the last few seasons at King's Lynn and will now be riding for Leicester. But the reason we're having him on the podcast is he's a fan's favourite for Lynn at the Norfolk Arena, and his testimonial will be here at the Norfolk Arena on Sunday. Let's start then, Mads, with a look at the past and when you first came over to Britain, because Sunday is celebrating 10 full seasons in British Speedway. You arrived in 2003 as a 20-year-old for Newport in the Premier League. What made you want to come and ride Speedway in Britain?
It was a bit impulsive. I had a call saying Newport was missing a rider. Frank Smart at the time was returned to Australia and they were desperate in need of a rider, and I said, yeah, I can do it. Probably said that too early because I only had two bikes at the time, 1.5 actually. So I travelled here with 1.5 bikes and I couldn't speak much English and just thought I'll give it a try.
How hard was it initially when you first come over here that you couldn't really talk any English? Was it particularly difficult?
I think I was better at it than I thought I was. I think I was just more embarrassed to talk or express myself. So I was really pleased. The people I lived with down at Newport really took me in and really made me talk. And I think now they actually understand a bit of Danish as well because they learned over the years. So no, they were a massive help for me.
Initially, your team boss was Neil Street. How massive was he for you when you first came over to this country?
He was inspiring, most of all, because a guy his age and what he was doing was unbelievable. I can remember I did an under-21 world final in Poland and we had a meeting at Newport the next day and I was knackered. And before I got to the track, Neil was there preparing the track. And he was fresh ass, and he even slept on the floor at the airport. So he taught me a thing or two in life, and he was just he was a real character.
We're going to let knackered off as a swear word. I'll let you have that one. We'll have that as a very loose one, so it's still beers on me at the moment. So you had a couple of years at Newport. Then in 2005 you started to double up with Swindon, who are obviously one of the biggest clubs in the country. How was that initial experience when you got the chance to double up for the Robins?
It was quite shocking because you had really, really good riders there, like Lee Adams and Lee Richardson. You only saw them on telly, so it was pretty fun to be there on their press day and just look up to all these big names and get to ride with them was really, really cool.
And they purchased you and made you an asset of the club in 2006. How did that feel to actually be owned by an elite league speedway club?
It was nice to probably get away from Newport, but I doubled up in 2005 and I wanted to do the same in 6, but BSPA changed the rules and we were not allowed, being a foreign rider. It was only English riders who could do it, which I didn't agree with. But yeah, it was a good experience, and then maybe it added a bit of pressure as well, but it was a good experience.
And how were your early years with the Robins? Once you got in there, then you became an asset, and then obviously you started to ride for them more. Did you feel like yourself getting more confident each year with your average because it kept increasing?
It did, but I did have a lot of crashes and still do. But I still struggled with injuries back then, and every time I sort of got the ball rolling, then I sort of crashed out again. And the same, we were in the playoffs one year, and I crashed out and broke my ankle and couldn't be in the playoffs. So that was a big blow. But what I remember most of my Swindon days was riding with Lee Adams, where he was at number 1 as I was number 2. He won. It was a fantastic time, and he was a really good captain to ride with.
He was a great rider as well, and obviously it's tragic what's happened to him since his Speedway career is finished. With regards to Speedway itself, you had a loan for a year at Peterborough, and then eventually you came over to King's Lynn, arrived on loan with obviously being an asset of Swindon in 2011, and you spent the past 3 seasons at the Norfolk Arena. What was it that made you feel comfortable here almost straight away?
I don't know, the worst season I've had in British Speedway was definitely the one at Peterborough. I didn't enjoy it, didn't agree with the people that was in charge, and I don't think because I didn't enjoy it, I didn't score the points I should. And then I went back to Swindon for one more year, and that wasn't too bad. But then I was out in the cold and wasn't in the plans for the following year, and then I sort of made my way into Kings Lynn, and it was something I haven't tried before, because it was they were really welcomed me nicely, and everything was done really well for me. Everything was set up with workshop and all the help I could wish for. So and everyone knows this is the best track in the country, so you can't really not enjoy riding here.
You became a fan's favourite. Why do you think you became so popular here? Because you were loved and still are.
I don't know, and I did get the feeling I was that at Swindon as well, but I don't know what it is that makes me fans' favourite at all. Probably, I would say maybe because I'm honest, too honest sometimes, and give 100%, and I'm not afraid to speak my mind, and some people like it, some don't, but I think mostly on the track I give 100% and hate losing, and probably that shines through.
Do you think as well, where you're a rider who's particularly determined, we can't come up one week and know that, for example, you're going to get 12 or 11. You'll have some weeks where you try really hard and you get 3 or 4, where your scores can go up and down a bit, and you don't mind a little crush. I'm not suggesting you want one. Do you think that's what, because they know you're a trier?
Yeah, maybe, yeah, and that is my biggest problem, just to be, I should be more consistent, and being 30 now, I should learn, because on my day I can beat anyone, and on my bad days I can lose to anyone. That's the biggest problem. But I think that is right. I try my hardest, and that's what people like seeing.
And last season was one that was frustrating for you personally and the club. There was so much promise for you as a rider, for the side. Everything looked fantastic at the start of the year, and then the injury curse kicked in, and you certainly were part of that. Fractured vertebrae, shoulder blade injury as well. You got injured, came back, got injured again. I imagine last year is one that you just look back with a bit of a heavy heart, because you still finished 5th, and had it not been for that injury curse, there's probably no doubt that the Stars would have ended in the playoffs.
Yeah, no doubt. We were the best team on paper before the season started, and then Nikolai had a few problems and got sacked and replaced, and we still battled on. And then I started crashing. I think I'd done the ligaments first in my shoulder, and then done ligaments in the other shoulder, and burnt my backside as well. And then fractured the vertebra and broken shoulder blade, so I was out for a total of a bit over 2 months, and it's never good when, like, I was riding as the captain. It was not good missing your captain, and they couldn't really get good replacements. So at the end of the day, you can't be too disappointed about the season finishing 5th, because we didn't have no luck, and we had Rory Lyon injured as well. The only one that was perfect was Niels, and yeah, you can't really fault them.
Now, as Mads is a special guest, we like to get to know a little bit behind the, I'm going to use the word celebrity, although Mads has just smiled and grinned, but we do this little section called 10 Questions With, just to get to know a little bit more about the person. We'll start with number 1. What persuaded you to get into the sport, Mads? And this one is obviously what persuaded you to get into Speedway?
I don't know. I started out just mugging around on push bikes when I was really small, and then I don't know if my dad wanted me to ride, but he bought me a bike, but I was more into motocross and just doing motocross until I was 11, and then I think I asked if I could have a speedway bike, but I can't really remember. And after that, I don't think I even thought about motocross again until like 10 years later. I thought I'll give motocross a go again, but speedway was just so much more exciting.
Who is your sporting idol? And that can be in terms of Speedway or away from Speedway, or both. Who is your sporting idol?
That's a tough one. As a speedway rider, I must say Mark Duram, the British rider, because I always liked his style. He was full on action and never gave up. But in other sports, I would probably say Ayrton Senna, or in like TT racing, Guy Nichols.
If you could change anything about your sport, And admittedly, you certainly vented a bit of frustration in your columns over the last couple of years for the EDP. So please try and keep this brief. If you could change anything about Speedway, what would it be?
I don't know. I would probably not change as much as people want to change the sport, because I think a lot of the changes in the sport is ruining the sport, and absolutely annoys me. Because sometimes you think that people making up new rules or whatever they come up with, they don't have a clue of what we're doing and what Speedway is and what's best for the sport. And we've seen it again now with the European Championship versus the GPs, and they can't agree on if riders can ride or not, and the only loser is the sport.
Yeah. Okay. What is your biggest passion away from Speedway?
That's a tough one. Probably cooking.
Mads the cook.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm a good cook, but I'm really into it. I love cooking, so yeah.
What's your signature dish?
I don't know.
Don't say beans on toast.
No, it isn't. It's probably mushrooms stuffed with a bit of cheese in the oven, and yeah, something like that.
That surprises me. Cooking. Okay. Question 5, halfway through this section. What was your most embarrassing moment? Now that can be on the track or off the track. Just any particular point where you think, oh no, Mads, what have I done?
Probably when you got Richie Roll as a teammate. He's got a twin brother and they look exactly the same. Even the other day I was screaming at, thought it was Richie, and turned out to be his brother. So that was pretty embarrassing. But the most embarrassing moment in Speedway must be when I was riding the junior bikes. We did a big meeting in Voyens, where all the big stars was, and we had to ride in the interval, and I won my race, and I wanted to celebrate, and I stood on the back mud guard to do a wheelie and flipped it in front of 5,000 people. That was really embarrassing.
Question 6. What item could you not live without?
That's a tough one. Most people would probably say their mobile phones, but I can't really see something I couldn't live without.
Speedway bike, maybe?
Is it life without Speedway?
Where is your dream holiday destination?
I've always wanted to go to Mexico and just get one of them big fancy hats and go in a local bar and drink tequila.
Where was your last holiday?
I think I went to Sweden for 5 or 6 days. That's probably been my last holiday.
I suppose you jet about as part of Speedway, but yeah, a little bit of relaxing time. Question 9. What is your favourite and least favourite TV programme? Now this is probably going to be a little bit harder for you because obviously you're Danish, aren't you? So is there anything maybe in England that you particularly like, or is there a cult Danish programme?
Yeah, well, we got on Danish television. We're lucky enough to get Jamie Oliver back to the cooking bit. Yeah. So yeah, that's probably. I do watch a lot of cooking programmes, but I do like. Just started watching 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps again.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. What I don't like is what are they all called? Home and Away, Amadale.
Oh, what, the soaps?
Yeah, what are the famous one?
EastEnders.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah. Okay, and finally, what is your current sporting aim, which seems quite topical because you're going into the new season quite soon?
Aiming this year or?
Yeah, just this year.
Yeah, it's really exciting coming to Leicester now, and we're at the same position as we were when I come to Kings Lynn at the start. They're new to the Elite League, and that was really exciting times for Kings Lynn, and hopefully I can experience that again because that's the best year we had at Kings Lynn.
Let's look a little bit towards the future. Mads, you openly stated that you didn't want to leave Kings Lynn. But now, is it time to forget about that, move on and start focusing on the season ahead? Or does it still feel a little bit raw?
There's a bit of grief, but no, it's time to move on, and you know these things happen, especially in Speedway, because everything is done up by averages and rules, too many rules. So yeah, it's just, you got to face the fact and just get the most out of what you got now, and now I'm pretty pleased to be at Leicester, and they seem really organised, and I'm looking forward to it. You
just said at the back end of 10 questions with that you're excited by the challenge. It's a massive season for Leicester as a club. They're back in the top flight. Personally, I mean, the club have obviously got something to prove, but do you think you've got something to prove, maybe to Kings Lynn and the rest of British Speedway as well, that you've still got it?
Obviously, you want to do really well when you come back with Leicester Bride at Kings Lynn, that's for sure. But I think we've got to focus on the Leicester team, and that's going to be really enjoyable trying to pick them up from the Premier League and move them into Elite League as they're doing now, because that was really exciting when we did it the first year at Kings Lynn. It was an awesome transformation, and it was cool to be part of, and hopefully it can go as good as it did with Kings Lynn.
You go to Leicester Lions, your new side up the A47, whole new bunch of teammates, but one of those did ride for you for a part of last year in Simon Stead. Is it going to be quite handy having Steady about with you again?
Yeah, obviously I know him from Kings Lynn now, and I was ridden with him at Swindon as well. But there's other familiar faces in there. I think I know him, all of them, and ridden with them all before, except the 2 reserves, which is another new rule coming in, that they have to be National League riders, which I don't agree with. But then again, yeah, it's going to be good, and hopefully I can get to know these 2 reserves during the practice and present practice.
And how do you think Leicester will do? Because you come in perhaps with no expectations as a club, having got promoted, but there's a few names in there: Jason Doyle, Patrick Hugard, Peter Lung, yourself. So you've got some experienced Elite League riders there. Do you think you'll cause a few upsets as the season goes on?
We sure will, and I think this team is very similar to the team Birmingham had last year, and they ended up in the playoffs. So I think this is really solid all the way through. And definitely all of us, you just mentioned, can put a point or 2 on our average, and that's the riders you need to win championships.
With a special guest, we like to take to Twitter to ask supporters and Speedway enthusiasts whether they have anything to say. We had a little hashtag Ask Mads, so we're going to ask Mr. Cornelius and some of the best ones. We'll start with @Speedway Riders. Whose trumps, and I'll just repeat that, whose trumps are the worst while driving long distance in the van? Is it yours or @Coolmain, who's your mechanic, Lars Jorgensen?
It's definitely Larsy. I think, that must be Lars, by far.
Okay. @PSH555, Paul H. Can my old man get his tenner back from the diesel in the van he drove back from Peterborough? He's only joking, by the way.
Yeah, he can do it if you ask nicely, but I do think he said, he'll pay it.
@West Norfolk Bees, which is David Wotton. When's the hobo going to have a shave? Tell him I will supply the razor.
I wouldn't mind shaving, but the problem was last January I wanted to, as a joke, just grow a full beard for press day. And in January last year I met my girlfriend, and when I shaved it all off after press day, she couldn't recognise me, and she said I looked like a 20-year-old, so I grew it back. So it's actually for her and not my own enjoyment.
@Teresa J. Carmen says, are you concerned about your new track at Leicester and the lack of passing lines?
I wouldn't know, because I haven't ridden the place. I've only seen it on Google Earth, so I'll have to come back on that one.
Okay. @Lord Milson 85, Chris Milson, aka Scoreboard Chris, who controls the scoreboard down here at the arena. Was it hard for Mads to accept that he wasn't going to be part of the Stars team for 2014? And I'm just going to include these hashtags because I know you'll like it. #Team365 and #3BM.
Yeah, it was hard, and I was really pleased that I kept my mouth shut and didn't come out straight away and started saying things I would regret. So I was happy that I just let it sink in and just learnt from it and moved on.
@Oxo74, which is Neil Oxbury, and he's split his into 2 parts, so we'll ask the first part first. When did Speedway first take Mads out of Denmark into the unknown?
I can't really remember. It must have been like back in, I don't know, 96 or something.
Or and you went somewhere on the continent to ride?
Yeah, we went to, I think, to Sweden or something with the junior bikes.
And this is a tough one. Who does Mads think is Denmark's all-time number 1?
I'd probably say Erik Gundersen, because I was back in when I was a kid, I was more fan of him than Hans Nielsen, and back then either you were a Hans Nielsen fan or Erik Gundersen fan, so I must say Erik.
Okay. Teresa J. Carmen comes back in. She's got a couple more questions, actually. So, firstly, has Mads ever had a smart haircut like his mate Niels?
I don't think Niels looks smart at all. He just looked too, groomed.
Okay. She also asks, would Mads consider getting fans out onto the centre green for a photo call after his meeting? I guess this is on Sunday, like when we won the league.
That might be a cool idea to consider. I'll look into it and see if it's possible.
Okay. She also asks, you were settled at Lynn and wanted to stay. Most fans wanted you signed too. How can clubs honour loyalty more easily? And then she's just put plan ahead ?
I don't know. It's brings us back to it's hard in Speedway where it's all depending on averages, and you got to go with the riders you think they can improve their averages the most, who fits in within the points limit. So you can't really say how in the future you can change it. I just think it's not like football where you can just put the side together you want. So it's a tricky question.
And finally, at Flow Pantry, and this one might take some thought, who would the 7 Speedway riders be in Mads's dream team? Now that's entirely up to you, whether you want to do like a dream team of your top 7 riders of all time, or your top 7 favourite riders that you've rode with, but we'll let you choose a particular sub-segment and then we'll get a 1 to 7 jotted down.
I've done it before, and I think my number 1 was Lee Adams, and I want it to be at number 2, Selfish. Niels at 3, Kelly Moran at 4, Mark Graham at 5, and I wanted Eric at reserve. And Mark Graham. Okay. So that is the top 7.
And who would your team boss be?
That would probably be Neil Stewart if he could.
Okay. Now let's wrap up this podcast special with Mads Corneliusson, which is meant to be a testimonial special preview as well. Mads' testimonial for riding 10 years in Britain, as we said earlier, will be held here at the Norfolk Arena in Kings Lynn on Sunday. Even though you're not in the Stars plans for 2014, Mads, are you really happy that Lynn are going to let you host your testimonial here?
Yeah, I'm very pleased that Buster let me hold my meeting here, as it would have been a bigger challenge to organise a meeting like this at Leicester, because this is familiar to me and I know everyone running the club and everyone, whatever they're doing. I know what everyone is doing at Lynn, and it just makes the whole thing so much easier to organise, and with sponsors as well. I'm more local here than I am at Leicester at the minute, so it just makes a lot more sense.
You're obviously going to have a new home track next season in the terms of Leicester, but will the Norfolk Arena and Lynn, in your heart, always probably be home anyway?
Yeah, that's maybe too early to say, but yeah, it will always be special to me because that is the most enjoyable years I've had in British Speedway. It's definitely at Kings Lynn, so it definitely will be.
Do you think Sunday is going to be an emotional day? You're a guy who wears your heart on your sleeve, you tend to say what you think, but do you think it's actually going to be quite an emotional day to think that you've ridden for 10 years in British Speedway and these guys are coming out to race for you?
I think it will be emotionally weird, but I don't, believe it or not, I really don't like attention, so that's probably what I'm going to hate the most, is having a whole day that's about me, because I don't like attention, and probably that's why I do a sport with a helmet on. So yeah, that's probably going to be my biggest worry on Sunday, that all the eyes is going to be on me.
All 4 clubs that are going to be competing on the day have a special connection with yourself: Newport, Swindon, Lynn and Leicester. It's going to be a 4-team tournament format, with each team having 4 riders. I was handed the riders earlier by Mark Gent, who's the Kings Lynn Stars press officer, among many of other things that he does in particular Speedway. He said riding for Lynn will be Kenneth Bier, Rory Schlein, Richie Worrell and 1 rider to be named. For Leicester, we're going to have Mads Corneliusson, Peter Leung, Patrick Hugard and Eunice Kilmer-Corpy. For Swindon, we're going to have Hans Anderson, Peter Kilderman, Troy Batchelor and Nikolai Clint. And riding for Newport on the day will be Niels Christian Everson, Cameron Woodward, Scott Nichols and Ty Proctor. Mads, as far as I'm aware, unless you tell me different, you handpicked a lot of these riders that you wanted to feature. Why some of those? Are they people you've rode with during your career?
Yeah, it's definitely people I enjoyed riding with, and some of them are really good friends. And I was been really pleased that I've asked a lot of riders, and nobody's turned it down because they didn't want to ride in my meeting. They had other commitments on the day. But I'm just pleased so many riders have come forward and said yes to do it, and it hasn't been that hard finding riders, which is a slap on the shoulder saying you're an alright guy anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And what are you hoping for from the day? I mean, let's start, you'll be crossing fingers for some good weather. But what are you hoping for, some competitive action, or do you think the racing's not even really that important? Or is it a case of once the tapes come up, you guys are racers and you're going to go at it anyway?
It's always the beginning of the season, and probably the team talk I'll have for the riders before the meeting is go out and have fun and enjoy and just do a bit of testing. But we all know it can't be done. It's always about racing, and definitely with them riders in that meeting, I don't want to lose to any one of them. So it's going to be competitive, that's for sure.
The gates open at 1 o'clock, the action starts at 3. If you had one final message to anybody who's listening to this about why they should come down here, what would that be?
Will be we got a hell of a good lineup, and we're going to have a perfect racetrack for some good racing that afternoon, and we're going to have an awesome after party. So come down and enjoy.
Just before I finish, I got told to say that there will be a disco in the bar afterwards, and all race jackets will be auctioned off as well. Are we going to see you dancing?
Probably not. I'll probably stay off the beers. It takes me more than 5 beers to dance.
And just to confirm for everyone who is listening, before we move on to the news section of this podcast, Mads didn't swear, which is going to cost me a couple of beers on Sunday. He's punching the air, but with all the stuff he's done over the couple of years for the EDP, it'll be a pleasure to buy him a beer. So let's hope we get a good turnout on Sunday and have a cracking day. Thanks for coming on, Mads.
Thank you.
Wisbech Town suffered FA Vars heartbreak at Sholing on Saturday. Despite Callum Reid hitting the woodwork twice, the unlucky Fenmen lost 1-0 to exit the competition at the quarter-final stage. They were just a 2-legged semi-final away from Wembley. The Fenmen will be looking to bounce back tomorrow when they host Cooknoe United in the UCL Prem. It was an equally traumatic week for Evo Stick Premier Division Kings Lynn Town. They lost 1-0 at home to Blythe Spartans on Saturday before crashing to a 6-1 reverse at Buxton in midweek. In an extraordinary game, Ashley Timms and Jake Jones were sent off in the first half, but 9-man Lynn still left the pitch to a standing ovation after fighting on despite staring a complete annihilation in the face. The Linnets visit high-flying FC United tomorrow. Basketball outfits CWA Fury's dreams of reaching the National League playoffs ended in a do-or-die clash against Cambridge Cats on Saturday. Fury lost their last game of the term 68-67. Well, I've started, so I'll finish. There was some better news for Lynn-based boxer Charlie Garrard, however, who won his second professional bout, beating Angelo Crow 40-36 in Norwich. Finally, West Norfolk second host tabletoppers Newmarket in a massive Eastern Counties Division 1 rugby fixture tomorrow. The North Wootton outfit sit 2 points behind their visitors with just 4 games left. There we go. That brings you all of your latest sporting news inside a minute. Although this week it wasn't exactly gone in 60 seconds, as I did overrun. All that's left to say is a huge thank you to Mads Corneliusson for coming on this week's podcast ahead of his testimonial on Sunday. Thanks to you for listening, and as always, I'll be back at the same time, the same place, next week.